When I was a kid, I was so obsessed with video games that I almost failed an exam because I stayed up all night playing. After that, I decided to gradually cut back on gaming until I quit entirely to focus on my studies and other activities. But recently, I tried playing again just for fun, and I immediately realized that video games are just as captivating as ever. Within a few days, I was eagerly looking forward to the end of the day just to turn on my console. This made me wonder, what exactly makes games so addictive? And is there a way to apply those elements to real life to make things more engaging? It turns out that most video games are designed to constantly trigger the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter responsible for desire and motivation. Think of dopamine as a dangling carrot in front of you. Wherever there's a reward, you naturally want to move toward it. Role-playing games, RPGs, are particularly good at keeping this carrot just out of reach. You level up, immerse yourself in a virtual character, and continuously receive rewards that cause dopamine spikes. As a result, players rarely feel bored, they just want to keep going. After some observation, I identified 6 key factors that create this dopamine loop. And the good news is, we can absolutely apply them to real life. In the next section, I'll use RPGs as an example, since they share many similarities with real life, to show you how to create your own carrot, making each day more exciting. Do you remember the last time you played a video game and were completely immersed in it? Maybe you were trying to slay a dragon or rescue a princess. Whatever it was, one thing was certain. You knew exactly what you needed to do and where you were headed. But what about real life? Have you ever felt like you were running, but had no idea where you were going? The truth is, many of us go through life without really understanding what we're aiming for. Maybe you're just following the path that others have laid out for you, but that will never compare to setting your own goals. Think about it. Do you want to run a marathon, achieve a high-ranking position at work, or write a book? However, here's one thing I want you to keep in mind. Don't set vague goals. Be specific. If you want to run a marathon, great. How many miles per day? How many days per week? If you want a higher salary, are you aiming for $3,000 or $5,000 a month? Having a clear goal gives meaning to your actions. Without it, all your efforts might feel pointless. But here's the interesting part. Video games don't just throw you into a massive quest and leave you to figure it out on your own. They break down the big goal into smaller, manageable tasks. Before you can slay the dragon, you might need to help the king recover a stolen piece of jewelry or assist a wizard in brewing a magic potion. And every time you complete a task, no matter how small, you feel a sense of accomplishment. That feeling keeps you going. Our brains respond strongly to these small wins. Every time you hit a milestone, no matter how tiny, your brain releases dopamine, making you feel excited and motivated. This creates what's known as an achievement loop. With each little success, you're driven to push even further. And before you know it, you're much closer to your big goal than you ever expected. Now, try applying this to real life. If you want to write a book, instead of fixating on the massive goal of finishing a book, break it down. Today, write 1,000 words. Tomorrow, edit 1 page. The next day, work on the cover design. As you complete each part, you'll feel a sense of progress and won't be overwhelmed by the big picture. But setting goals alone isn't enough. Another crucial factor that keeps you motivated in games is visible progress. Imagine playing a game without knowing how far you've come. Pretty frustrating, right? Games always show you that you're making progress. They don't remind you that you still have 99% of the journey left to reach the max level. Instead, they show you that you're just one step away from leveling up. This applies to real life as well. The problem is, progress in life isn't always as visible as it is in games. You could be making significant strides and not even realize it, which can make it easy to lose motivation. That's why tracking your progress consciously is so important. Every day, write down what you did to get closer to your goal. If you wrote 500 words for your book, log it. If you ran 3 miles, record it. If you saved a small amount of money, take note of it. Seeing even the smallest progress can keep you motivated to move forward. Ever wonder why some people stay persistent while others give up halfway? It's not because they have more willpower, it's because they've learned to hack their motivation system. They break down their goals, create small achievement loops, and make sure their progress is always visible. So what about you? Do you feel lost in life? Have you been putting something off because it seems too big and far away? If so, it's time to make a change, starting today. Clearly define your goal. Break it down into smaller steps. Keep track of even the smallest progress. When you see yourself improving, you won't want to stop. And when you don't stop, you will eventually succeed. Life is no different from a game, but instead of being just a wandering character in it, be an actual player. Someone with a clear goal who knows exactly what needs to be done to achieve it. Speaking of motivation, in online games, the social element plays a crucial role in keeping players engaged and driven. Joining a guild, teaming up to clear dungeons, or simply showing off your ranking on the leaderboard creates a fun, competitive atmosphere that fuels motivation. I still remember the night my ranking in World of Warcraft finally shot up to Gladiator. I literally screamed out loud in the middle of the night, probably loud enough for my neighbors to hear. Have you ever had a moment like that? If so, share your experience. Whether it's competing for a higher score or working with teammates to take down a tough boss, the sense of accomplishment in those moments is incredibly rewarding. These experiences are often far more satisfying than playing alone because they allow us to share victories and be recognized by others. Likewise, in real life, the social factor can be applied by sharing our goals and progress with friends, family, or colleagues. Instead of struggling alone, you could invite a group of friends to go for morning runs together and compare your weekly distances. Or set up a fun challenge. Who can read the most pages, or who can lose weight the fastest? When people work toward goals together, they feel less alone, are encouraged by each other's success, and can easily get advice and support when facing difficulties. One major advantage of social interaction is the ability to learn from one another. Just like in games, where you might watch tutorial videos or discuss strategies with teammates to optimize your character build, in real life, having an ally group helps you continuously improve your skills. Healthy competition also pushes you to do better. You don't want to fall behind. For instance, if your group sets a goal for each person to learn 10 new vocabulary words per day, everyone will feel the pressure to keep up and not be the one who lags behind. So the social element is not just about doing things together for fun. It's a powerful tool for building accountability and self-discipline. Through teamwork, mutual encouragement, and friendly competition, we can sustain motivation over the long run, transforming seemingly mundane tasks into part of the colorful, rewarding game of life. Have you ever wondered why video games are so addictive? A big reason is that you can see your progress at all times. Every time you complete a quest or defeat an enemy, your experience EXP bar fills up little by little. But here's the genius part. The game never tells you that you've only reached 0.7% of the long journey to level 100. That would be incredibly discouraging. Instead, it shows you that you're already 70% of the way to level 2. This way of displaying progress keeps you constantly feeling like you're improving. When you see that you're just a little bit away from leveling up, you naturally want to keep playing. And in most games, you're not just tracking one progress bar, you're developing multiple skills at the same time. While you're reaching level 3 in one skill, you might be close to level 5 in another. This overlapping progress makes it feel like you're always on the verge of completing something, pulling you deeper into the cycle of improvement. But what about real life? Progress isn't always visible, and that's exactly why many people lose motivation. If you can't see yourself moving closer to your goal, it feels like nothing is changing, making it easy to give up. So how do you fix that? Make your progress visible. The simplest way to do this is by tracking your daily activities. Write down everything you do that brings you closer to your goal. Did you write 500 words for your book today? Log it. Did you run 3 miles as part of your training? Write it down. Did you study for an hour? Record it. Even if you saved $10 by skipping Starbucks, make a note of it. These small numbers may seem insignificant at first, but when they add up, they create a big picture view of your progress. This helps you see exactly where you are on your journey. And when you realize you're just one step away from a major milestone, you'll feel a strong urge to keep going. So, do you want to try this today? Start with one small action. Write down one thing you just did that brought you closer to your goal. Don't let your progress remain a vague idea. Make it something you can see and feel. Recognizing your progress is crucial because it ties into the third key factor. Games always reward your effort. Have you ever noticed that in most games, you receive a reward when you reach a certain level or complete a quest? These rewards aren't just for fun. They're a major motivator that keeps you playing. Think about it. Would you keep slaying dragons if there were no rewards at all? Probably not. But because there's something to gain, you keep going. This principle applies to real life as well. When you know there's a well-deserved reward waiting for you, your brain releases dopamine, boosting your motivation. For example, if you set a study goal and promise yourself a reward upon completion, it becomes much easier to push through laziness. But here's an important point. In video games, rewards don't just motivate you, they also make your character stronger. When you defeat an enemy, you get a sharper sword, which helps you take down tougher opponents more easily. In other words, the rewards make the experience smoother and more enjoyable, keeping you engaged. This is where many people make mistakes in real life. Have you ever eaten healthy for a whole week, exercised regularly, and then rewarded yourself by devouring an entire cake while lying on the couch? Let me know in the comments. If you think about it, this is just like a game where you complete a quest. But instead of leveling up, your character gets weaker. That would never happen in a game, but in real life, we often unknowingly do exactly that. Here's another example. I once managed to save $1,000, but instead of continuing my good financial habits, I blew it all on a new phone just because it was the latest model, even though I didn't really need it. That's like earning a ton of gold in a game and wasting it on useless items. Instead, I should have invested that money in something that would help me grow, like a course, an investment, or something with lasting value. So how can you make rewards actually help you progress? If you enjoy running, instead of rewarding yourself with a lazy day and junk food, reward yourself with a new pair of running shoes, something that helps you improve and stick with the habit. If you're learning a new skill, reward yourself with a great book or a tool that makes learning easier. Ask yourself, does my reward help me grow, or is it setting me back? A good reward should not only make you happy, but also push you further. So take a moment to think, what's a reward that will benefit you in the long run? And if nothing else, at least make sure it doesn't undo all the progress you've made. But you may have noticed that rewards in games aren't always the same. You don't always get a better sword. Sometimes you earn stronger armor, a new spell, or something entirely different. This brings us to the fourth key factor in games: variety and novelty. Great games always have something new waiting for you. It could be a newly unlocked area, a new enemy to face, or even just fresh cosmetic items for your character. Our brains love variety, and as long as an activity offers something new to stimulate us, it will remain engaging and satisfying. Now imagine if instead of new experiences, a game forced you to repeat the same level over and over again. Most of us would quickly get bored and quit. The same principle applies to real life. If you want to stay passionate and committed to something long-term, you need to introduce some novelty into the process. Think back to your first day at a new job. Everything felt exciting. There were new things to learn, new people to meet, and endless possibilities. But fast forward a year, and once everything has become familiar, work may start feeling dull and repetitive. It's like playing the same game level repeatedly without any changes. When that happens, your motivation drops because there's nothing to look forward to. I'm all for building strong habits, but you also need a little variation to keep things fresh. If your work starts feeling monotonous, try taking on a new project, learning a new skill, or changing your approach. Sometimes, even small things, like getting to know a coworker you rarely talk to, reorganizing your workspace, or trying a new lunch spot, can bring a sense of novelty. Change doesn't have to be huge or permanent. Sometimes, just a small tweak can create excitement. If you work out, try a new exercise. If you're studying, switch up your study environment. Even the tiniest changes can make your day feel more interesting. Try something new today and feel the difference. Now, the final key factor that makes games so engaging is challenge. The human brain loves overcoming obstacles. But to truly enjoy a challenge, it has to match your current skill level. Otherwise, you'll quickly lose motivation. In other words, a challenge shouldn't be too hard, but it also can't be too easy. When you start at level 1, you don't immediately face the final boss. If you tried, you'd lose every time because the challenge is far beyond your ability. When something is too hard, you won't want to continue. That's why games start with simple challenges, ones that you can realistically overcome. As you get better, the difficulty increases. If you improve but the challenges stay the same, you lose excitement. After all, there's no fun in effortlessly completing everything without any effort. If a game becomes too easy, you'll quickly get bored. The ideal challenge has just the right level of difficulty, so that when you finally overcome it, you feel a real sense of accomplishment, and your brain rewards you with a burst of dopamine. But in real life, we rarely encounter challenges that are perfectly balanced. Instead, we either feel overwhelmed or bored because the task is too simple. If a task feels too overwhelming to the point where you can't even start, it's likely beyond your current skill level. In that case, take a step back and break it down into smaller, more manageable parts. Then, tackle each part one by one, starting with the easiest. This lowers the difficulty, builds momentum, and helps you keep going. On the other hand, if a task feels too easy, you need to increase the challenge. Ideally, you'd skip overly simple tasks, but sometimes they still need to get done. Personally, I like to add a time limit to make things more challenging. I set a strict deadline for myself and try to finish the task before time runs out. This forces me to work more efficiently, and over time, I get faster and better at it. Essentially, you're still doing the same task, but the time pressure turns it into a more engaging challenge. So adjust the difficulty level to match your skill. When you do this, you'll find yourself more focused, more engaged, and more motivated, and the activity itself will become much more enjoyable. By now, you probably have a much clearer understanding of why video games are so engaging. Without the core elements we've discussed, games wouldn't be nearly as exciting. And the best part? Once you understand this, you can apply these same principles to make your own life more exciting. Of course, beyond the 5 key factors we covered, there are plenty of other elements that make games irresistible. For example, a dynamic soundtrack can create a more immersive experience, or the sense of freedom and control in games can make us feel truly absorbed. However, I don't want to dive too deep into every possible factor. Instead, I've focused on the ones with the biggest impact, the ones most commonly found in role-playing games, RPGs, because these games mirror real life the most. There's one more important thing to remember. Video games implement all these elements at an incredibly fast pace, constantly triggering dopamine. The intensity is so high that our daily lives can't compete with that level of stimulation. But that doesn't mean you should give up and accept that life will always be less exciting than a game. On the contrary, you can and should apply this dopamine loop to your own life. If you don't, you'll always be chasing stronger, external dopamine sources without control. So make sure you incorporate these 5 elements into the most important areas of your life, whether it's work, studying, or personal goals. When you do this, you're no longer just chasing rewards, you are in control of your own carrot. You can achieve anything you set your mind to, as long as you apply the right strategies. And if you've made it this far, let me just say, you're awesome. If you found these ideas helpful, hit like, share this, and subscribe. Not only will it help this content reach more people, but it will also help them improve their lives too. As always, thank you for being here. I hope you take what you've learned today and use it to become better than you were yesterday. And now, are you ready for a challenge? Your mission: apply all 5 elements to one of your daily activities. Yes? Challenge accepted. Then best of luck on your journey, hero.